Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Get in the Garage.
We're a music podcast.
For music lovers.
As always, we've got a great show planned, but before we do, as always, please remember to like and comment and subscribe and share the podcast with all your friends and your family members. Comments really help as well. Any sort of engagement is great, so we greatly appreciate that. Luke, who is the selected audience member of the week?
Tell someone who plays piano to listen to our podcast.
A pianist.
If you know someone.
A pianist.
A pianist.
Yes.
Tickling the ivories.
Also, did you know that it's been found that our podcast is helpful if you play it for babies who aren't born yet in utero?
Oh, is
I've
it now?
Found out this information recently. So if you play this for unborn children, they will. It's like Mozart or Beethoven when you play classical music.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, it's like a baby Einstein kind of thing.
Wow. Well,
so,
there you go. Backed by science, folks. You can't deny that.
Wow.
Let's get the music here rolling, and we'll get the show going.
Wow. Enthusing words.
Thank you.
We also forgot to tell everyone what's on the podcast today.
Oh, my goodness. We did forget to tell people what's on the podcast today.
Before we roll this theme song,
Yes,
we
let's
have
roll it.
Music news. We are going to talk about 3 albums that were released in January 1973 that are celebrating their 50th anniversary. We have the Beach Boys' Holland, we have Aerosmith's self-titled album, and we have Bruce Springsteen's Greetings from Asbury Park, New Jersey. We have 2 debut albums and 1 long-haul album in there. And then we are going to talk about the musical year that was 2003. Probably not in that order. We're going to do 2003 first, but, you know, get with it.
Get in the garage. Let's start the...
Let's roll some theme song.
I'm
gonna put the theme song in this week, too.
Oh, yeah.
So I forgot to put the theme song in last week, so we were sitting in silence when we're like, roll that theme song, and nothing happened.
We're
so
just like...
it's really great.
It's fake.
Let me just say that right now, there's a bit of upgrading happening with our computer system and all that kind of stuff. Editing has gone into a different set of hands. Those hands being Luke's.
I'm learning how to video edit.
And Luke's learning how to video edit. Yeah, so it's going to be a fun experience for us all. It'll be a good time. Every episode, of course, we open with some music news. Guys, what's on the docket today? What's in? What's hot? What are the people talking about? Extra.
I'm going to say it's a little dry this musical news season.
Yeah.
Do you guys have anything fun?
I have
an RIP.
Okay, let's go with the RIP first.
Let's start out somber.
RIP to Tom Bell, who was one of the masterminds behind the Philly soul sound of the 1960s and 70s. He was a songwriter and producer, and he died this week at the age of 79 years old. He's behind a lot of hits from groups like the Delphonics and the Spinners and the OJs.
It's a shame.
He wrote Didn't I Blow Your Mind This Time, which is featured heavily in the movie Jackie Brown.
Oh, okay.
Also,
Electric Sitar.
Philly Soul has one of the best record labels of all time. It's that green label. It's Philly Soul. It's real nice. Purple.
Yeah. Well, rest in peace. I've got a bit of music news.
Let's hear it.
Mariah Carey making another appearance on the Get in the Garage music news segment. So, if in some interviews Mariah Carey has stated that All I Want for Christmas Is You was a song that she had written on a Casio keyboard when she was like 12, 13, 14 years old or something like that, the official co-writer, Walter, I hope I say this right, Afanasieff, what is going on? Oh, you're good.
You're just hearing other things. It's not affecting you.
Yeah, no. Well, it's hard to concentrate.
I hear you.
Let's just fucking cut it there, and we'll start back in. I'll just start back in with this, and you can just.
Okay.
All right. I've got some music news. Mariah Carey makes another appearance in our music news segment. So the song All I Want for Christmas Is You was supposedly written by Mariah Carey when she was 12, 13, 14 years old on a Casio keyboard. The co-writer of the song, Walter Afanasieff, who is a songwriter and everything in his own right too. He's got a couple of Grammys for work with Celine Dion.
My Heart Will Go On.
And he won the 2000 Producer of the Year, non-classical. But so yeah, he came back in a podcast and was like, no, that's not how it happened. Like, she has no idea what he said. Something in a quote where she has no idea what. She doesn't know a diminished chord from a minor seventh chord to a major seventh chord. She doesn't play keyboard or piano. She doesn't understand music. She doesn't know chord changes and music theory or anything like that. So it's a tall tale. Who knows who's telling the truth and who's not? I would probably assume that he is telling the truth.
Yeah, did she hum a melody when she was a teenager?
That's what
Possibly.
I was
Like,
thinking. Like,
or
yeah,
write a simple poem.
yeah,
Sure.
right. But yeah, so according to him, he was like, no,
But yeah, he
that's
was
not.
her keyboard player.
This is
Right,
also
he wrote the music.
the second Mariah Carey "All I Want for Christmas" drama this year.
Drama.
I mean, you also brought up a case a couple months ago where that someone was like, I wrote a song just like that before, and
Yeah.
it turned out to be not so true.
So I think there's a lot of Mariah Carey haters, considering that "All I Want for Christmas Is You" is like not only kind of like a meme unto itself anyway, right? Like when Thanksgiving comes, there's all the memes of Mariah Carey thawing for the Christmas season, and now there's
I don't-
memes of her like
money, man.
If
Right.
I'm,
Because
if,
that song
but that's
brings
what I'm
in
saying.
that song brings in guaranteed $10 million a year to somebody.
that's what I'm saying.
Right.
Keyboard guy. If I'm keyboard guy, I just let Mariah Carey have it and be like, "Yep, I wrote the keyboard. Who cares? I don't care."
Send me that check. I don't give a fuck
yeah,
who wrote it.
that's what I'm
Right.
saying.
Uncle Sam says I wrote it.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like there's any like sort of lawsuit or anything, as much as it was just he had just
Some
stated on a podcast that he's
some
like, no,
beef.
maybe a little bit of beef. We're going into your
some
territory.
beef, if you will.
Yeah. So
Dude, I got some beef.
okay.
Remember we talked about Journey and how they were suing each other because what's the original guitar player's name?
Neil Sean.
Neil
Yes.
Sean.
Neil Sean is how the pronunciation of his last name always gets me. He was supposedly spending too much money on the corporate credit card, and the keyboard player filed
Jonathan Cain.
filed lawsuit against him. Well, now Neil has filed a lawsuit against the keyboard player Jonathan because Jonathan was at Mar-a-Lago with some Republican people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and people like that, and he performed a version of Don't Stop Believing at Mar-a-Lago, and now they are suing each other again for using the song in a political way as to damage the band. So all this being said, the double lawsuit for corporate spending credit card, the political playing at Mar-a-Lago, they are starting a tour on January 27th.
I was gonna say they made an album a couple months ago.
Yeah.
2023, and they
Nice.
just made an album a couple months ago. This is so crazy. This band is like multiple lawsuits deep and about to go on stage.
Well, how are they going to pay the lawyers?
I hope it gets volatile. I hope it does. It's all.
Bad
I mean,
blood at the Journey show.
at this point, it'll be
What a journey.
interesting if there's some trading of barbs across the stage. It's just like kind of like, come on, guys, give it up at this point. Like, you guys are multiple lawsuits deep. You do not enjoy each other's company on any level.
It's
we
like-
don't need to see you play together.
Well, and then it's just like, just go your separate ways, man.
Fleetwood Mac once said.
Thank you. Thank you. Separate ways. Sorry.
So,
Yeah. So, well, that's
did
interesting.
you say go your own ways?
No, I said you should go your separate ways.
Oh, yes.
They should go their separate ways.
Yes, yes.
So, yeah. Well,
So yeah, that was that drama. I thought it was very interesting, and journey, man.
yeah.
It's been a journey.
Yeah. I have. I also have some
Thank
legal
you.
news. If you
Thank
like.
you, Jeffrey.
No, he said it. He said it a minute and a half ago.
You didn't hear me say it?
No, I didn't fucking hear you say that
I
shit.
said, what a journey. I have some legal news.
Oh, let's hear it.
Order! Order in the court. Thank you. So there is a second lawsuit being filed against Ticketmaster over the Eras tour, the Taylor Swift tour.
Oh, I saw that fans did another lawsuit.
Yes,
What's up
fans
with this
banded
one?
together. So this one is on the basis, from what I read, that, Ticketmaster had, I don't know if they officially guaranteed, right? But they did state that the sales of these tickets will not be tampered with by robots and blah, 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 whatever cyberborgs are out there
Robots.
trying to get Taylor Swift's tickets. Obviously, that didn't happen. It was a whole shit show, as if you've been listening to our podcast will know. So the fans banded together once again and are now filing a second lawsuit against Ticketmaster for ticket tampering, and then also them making empty promises and blah 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 blah. So, but I hope it goes through. I hope we watch the crumbling of Ticketmaster. Also, Live Nation, their parent company, is lumped into this lawsuit as well. But
I have more legal news.
okay.
Jury finds Tory Lanez guilty of shooting Megan Thee Stallion.
That's right.
This was news to nobody. If you kind of were paying attention a little bit. So he has not been sentenced yet, but he has been found guilty. So that's good.
All charges too.
Yes.
Did you hear that? What was alluded? I was going to mention it on Music News last week, but I don't think I did. It was alluded that his reason, like what the reason was behind him doing that, was that she was insulting his talent.
Yes, well, actually, that's what I heard. The actual reason for the shooting was a diss of skill lyrically, but that is all hearsay. But I think a little bit of that came out in the trial, but that's all like in the gobbledygook of it all.
Yeah, they tried to put it on
the assistant.
Yeah,
but that did not really go through, and it was very hard evidence against him that he did the act.
Well, I believe she said too that he begged her not to call them. He's like, I've already had gun charges or something like that. Please don't get the law involved.
He's a Canadian citizen too.
Is he?
He'll be deported.
Oh, I didn't realize that
when he gets
Canada.
sentenced, he will most likely not serve that time in the U.S.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah. Jeez. Well, there you have it. Came around full circle.
So, Megan Thee Stallion. Cool.
Yeah. Do you have any more music news? I've got one more thing to finish it off. So I don't know if you guys saw, but Metallica performed at their Helping Hands benefit, which I think it's like their fourth time doing it or something like that. But they headlined at the Microsoft Theater in Los Angeles. Greta Van Fleet actually opened up for them. The highlights of this performance was they covered the song Borderline, the Thin Lizzy song Borderline.
I did see that.
But they also performed... Oh, what's the new single? Lux Eterna. Mm-hmm. They performed that, and I have to say, Lars played pretty well. I don't know. There was a moment where I was skeptical, where I'm like, is there a backing track? because the kick was like
drum triggers.
Yeah, man.
Triggers.
Yeah, everyone plays with triggers.
Every time you hit the one, you're hitting eighth notes, and it's kicking off 16ths in between. How do you think Def Leppard plays his drums?
Yeah, well, right. That's the drummer's name.
So he could be going dun 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 dun. It sounds digga 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 digga.
Oh, all right.
Which it's still music. Who gives a shit how it's made?
I just was like, I will say, I was impressed. I was okay. I was like,
I want to
plays like this.
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
I would like to celebrate Metallica for during that Thin Lizzy cover. They sang harmony.
Yeah.
In tune.
Congratulations, Metallica.
And
Who's
I was
the other
like,
singer, Rob?
Fuck yeah. I think it was Rob
Trujillo.
doing harmony. I was like, fuck yeah, you guys are actually singing
They had another
harmonies.
guitar player, too, up there with them. Another acoustic guitar player.
I didn't see that.
But
I saw the clip in like a long form.
Yeah. Kirk Hammett sounded all right, though. I mean, he does his thing on guitar. I mean, it's the crazy thrash metal wah type solo that he's played, for the last 30 years, 40 years. But it wasn't, it was overall, it was okay. I thought they did good. So, yeah.
Before we leave.
Yeah.
Morrissey's beefing with Miley Cyrus. Morrissey's album.
I did see something about that.
Morrissey's also beefing with Capitol Records, but also who isn't Morrissey beefing with? Ever. Yeah, Morrissey.
Morrissey, you fucking suck.
Yeah, big one up to you, man. So, Morrissey signed with Capitol. Capitol's like, this album, we're not going to release it. And he's like, meh. And there's a track of Miley Cyrus on there. And Morrissey has done some outrageous things, to say the least, throughout the years. And now Miley Cyrus is like, hey, man, how about you just take me off that track and like have yourself a good day? And he's all very upset about it. He's posted all over his personal website, and you can check it out there.
Who gives a shit?
That was me very much mocking his British accent.
As you should.
One of the most overrated frontmen in music history.
I'll double down on that agreement. Robert Smith all day. Get bent.
Get bent. Well, there's been the music news on that
Listen,
that upswing.
I've not dropped 1 ounce of Morrissey hatred on this podcast in like 2 years.
Oh,
that was
so
like the first drop.
Yeah.
We're dipping in.
We're dipping
His
in. Dipping
music,
the toe.
my
his,
God.
Oh my
his,
goodness.
his music sucks. His
Morrissey
singing
strikes
sucks.
back.
His politics suck. His personality sucks.
So
This is coming from a pretty big Smiths fan. I do
let's
enjoy
sync
the
it up real
Smiths.
quick though. Hey Morrissey. There you go.
From Get in the Garage.
From Get in the Garage with love.
Moving on
and Ticketmaster
to our
too.
next segment, kind of a recurrent segment we've been doing, which is the favorite albums of our lifetime. We choose a year and we talk about each of our favorite albums that came out that year. This year's picks are from 2003. Luke, can you set us up what was happening in 2003, a year in which I was 15 years old?
I'm going to take you through the timeline. I was 11 turning 12. Michael, figure that one
14.
out. 14. Here we go. All right. Following an investigation for child pornography of all things, UK police found 500 original Beatles studio tapes, including most of what was the Let It Be sessions that had been bootlegged for years and years since the 1970s. So I learned that by doing this. That was on January 10th of that year. So we got back like a ton of Beatles tapes that had been illegally circulating, and they found it with the raid of gross things I mentioned before that I do not want to say again. January 31st, big milestone here. Johnny Cash releases his music video for Hurt.
Wow.
Oh, where were you when that shit
The
dropped?
Dust
right?
Bowl with cockroaches and whatever.
Yeah, he's in the Johnny Cash Museum that's like run down.
Yeah.
Amazing. February 8th, Avril Lavigne scores her 3rd #1 single with I'm With You. Bring Yourself Back to a Time. That's what was going on. And she was the 2nd artist in history to have 3 consecutive #1 songs off a debut album. So that's very interesting. I do not know who the first was. February 20th, this is a real bummer, but something that's local to us. The Station nightclub fire happened in Rhode Island. Very
That was
sad
2003.
event. Yes, and that was featuring the band Great White,
Yeah.
who was playing. 100 people passed away rushing the exit when the building caught fire, and 160 others were injured. It was a very tragic event. Guitar player Ty Longley died of Great White. I know some people who were in that fire. It was a bad deal. One of the worst things, but hopefully we learned some lessons from it, and that happened. So February 23rd, New York City is the site of the 45th Grammy Awards, and that was the Grammy Awards where Norah Jones came in and won 6 awards. So pretty big hype on that. Also, you guys are going to love this. On February 24th, something amazing happened in our lives. Rob Trujillo joined Metallica during the Some Kind of Monster sessions. Come on. Round of applause, boys.
Oh, Bobby Trujillo.
Also in 2003, this is where we were culturally and politically. The Dixie Chicks were on stage in the UK later that month, and they said, and I quote, "Just so you know, we're ashamed that the President of the United States is from Texas." The group was dropped from radio playlists all around the country. Their career kind of has not recovered since, I would say, in a strange way, even though they have come back in a lot of ways since then. So that's where we were politically there. Also, March 24th, Meteoria by Linkin Park debuted at #1 on the Billboard
yeah.
200. It's just where we were as people, guys.
It's just where we were.
It's just where we were. We were Avril Lavigne, Linkin Park. This is what we were doing, guys. April 1st. Another cultural event is dozens of fans walk out at a Pearl Jam concert for almost the same thing the Dixie Chicks say. And at the end, Eddie Vedder gives this refrain, just to clarify, we support the troops. So that was a bit of a mixed statement there from them. This is how old 2003 is. April 28th, Apple
My
launches the iTunes Music Store featuring
Happy birthday to me.
featuring. Do you know how many? Guess how many songs the store opened with?
How many?
5.
200,000, which is
Oh, wow.
more than you thought, but
Yeah.
a very small amount, and less than I have on that iPod sitting up on the shelf. So very interesting. More than 1 million songs are sold in the first week. May 19th, the former TV channel Much Music is relaunched in the USA as Fuse.
Fuse.
All you emo kids reunite, metal kids, and that was the only place to see music videos by bands like Taking Back Sunday and, you know, on the reg, The Used, things like that. I'm sure
Hawthorne Heights. I remember seeing
Hawthorne Heights videos.
Oh,
Yeah, all those music of Green Day, stuff like anything that really wasn't getting played on MTV, you could watch on Fuse. In my heyday of that musical scene, June 22nd, Beyonce drops #1 solo album, Dangerously in Love, that would go on to earn her 5 Grammy hits. It goes to #1 and sells 11 million copies. I just want to throw that out there. Michael, this one's for you. July 11th, Rob Halford rejoins Judas Priest.
Thank God.
And
Thank God.
me and Michael...
More metal than your mom's kettle, baby.
That's it. Me and Michael would see the reunited Judas Priest at different times later.
Yeah, that was about that. Yeah.
Big cultural here. This year was crazy. I kept going through and I was like, oh my God, I remember all of this. Madonna sparks media controversy as they're kissing Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera.
At the VMAs.
At the VMAs. Remember that, guys?
I do remember that.
And then Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera got in like a beef afterwards over being like, you know, I kissed her better and stuff, all that stuff.
Oh, I remember. I do remember that too. Right.
So
right.
I just culturally bringing you back. Wow. Napster goes, legal and charges $10.99 for a streaming service like Spotify.
And immediately dies.
And immediately dies, even though they had the idea of Spotify way before anybody, which is pretty amazing. Michael Jackson was arrested for doing those things that he did, which was bad. He also released #1s that year. So that was the year. That happened on November 20th. So that kind of closed out the musical year. A lot of scandal, a lot of celebrity controversy popular in 2003, way more than the last year I covered, which I think was 1999. We were definitely into like
2000.
celeb-reality, tear them down. That's all we did all that year, it seems. The Stooges reunited as a band. I am going to give you your top 10 albums. We have Get Rich, Die Trying by 50 Cent, Come Away With Me by Norah Jones, Stripped by Christina Aguilera. #4 is #1's by Michael Jackson. #5 is Meteora by Linkin Park. 6 is Dangerously in Love by Beyonce. 7, Rush of Blood to the Head by Coldplay. 8 was Fallen by Evanescence. 9, In the Zone by Britney Spears. And 10, Let Go by Avril Lavigne. Do you guys want to know the songs?
Yeah, might as well.
Okay, here are your top 10 songs of 2003. In the Club, 50 Cent. Ignition by the man I'm not going to say. Get Busy by Sean Paul. Remember Get Busy, man?
Yeah, man.
Dum, 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 dum. Oh, God, crazy. All right, and then speaking of crazy, Crazy in Love, Beyonce and Jay-Z. When I'm Gone, 3 Doors Down. Unwell by Matchbox 20. This was 2003, huh? Right Turn by Chingy. Oh, Right There. Oh my God, Right There by Chingy. Sorry. Couldn't get that right. Miss You by Aaliyah. Picture by Kid Rock and Sheryl Crow. Bring Me to Life by Evanescence. And that's it. Bring Me to Life by Evanescence is the
number 10.
Yep.
Nice.
So crazy.
What a year it was, wasn't it? 2003.
What a year. This one I really lived through. So like going through all this stuff was a major like what the heck.
Yeah. That's so funny. All right, well, why don't we get cracking into the albums, guys? Brrr. Jeffrey, would you like to lead us off with your album of 2003?
Okay, so I was looking at the albums from 2003 that I really love. I was going to get cute with it. I was going to name an album by Belle and Sebastian called Dear Catastrophe Waitress, which is an excellent album. But it kept coming back to my heart, and my heart says it is Get Rich or Die Trying by 50 Cent.
Oh, yeah.
That was one of the 2 CDs I played the most while learning how to drive in my mom's minivan. It was culturally so big. It sold so many copies. It was everywhere. And when I think of 2003, it's the one I come back to.
Yeah. Well, to piggyback off of that, I'm going to go with you as well, Jeff.
Nice.
I'm also going to say Get Rich or Die Trying, if you haven't seen my screen already.
Yep.
I agree with you. It's that same thing where this was the soundtrack of a party that I went to that I looked around and went, we are all too young for this party to be happening, and what was playing in the background. Get rich or die trying.
Even at what I was, 11 turning 12, I was spitting you 50 Cent verses today
Yeah.
and Eminem verses from this album that I have not listened to in so long. I think we listened to it for the podcast maybe like last year.
Yes.
But it was such a groundbreaking record. Like it came out, it was like Eminem's Guide, like you said. It was like I remember people being like, do you have the edited Walmart CD at the time? Because like some people had the edited one, some people didn't, and then you would burn the unedited one for your friends, and they'd stick it in their, you know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
It was
No Heat on that edited version because Heat's entire drums are really clicking of guns. So it just wasn't even on the edited version.
Yeah.
Which is so insane.
It's
Let's name some of the huge songs of this record. I was singing them to Mike.
I mean, In the Club,
PIMP,
PMP, 21 Questions.
What Up Gangsta?
Many Men.
Wanksta was big.
Wanksta. Yeah, Patiently Waiting.
So every song in this record was a really
PIMP.
big song.
Back Down, the Ja Rule diss.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't Push Me with Lloyd Banks and Eminem. It was a big album, man. It was the soundtrack to that year for me 100%.
And is Eminem the producer on this record as well?
A couple songs.
Okay, so it's
and
like
he had Dre as
Dre.
well.
Okay, multiple producer.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Here is the question I have for you, Jeff. Why the Bella and Sebastian record? That's what I was more curious to me because that seems like a pick like I wouldn't seem like you would ever be into, but you said it. So I was like, oh yeah, because like there's a lot of emo-y, acoustic-y things happening at this time that are super interesting.
So that Belle and Sebastian album, it has a song called Piazza New York Catcher, which was on the Juno soundtrack, which I think came out in 2007. So when I saw that movie, heard that soundtrack, I was like, oh, I like this band more than some of the other like mumbly acoustic stuff on the soundtrack. So I hunted down the album, and the album is like, there's like 2 or 3 acoustic-y type of songs, but that whole album is more like chamber pop, like very Beach Boys-y, very like 3-bar harmony, lots of like these little like hooks and little like musical candy all over. It's produced by Trevor Horn, who was he produced all of Seal's music in the 90s. He was the guy behind the Buggles, who did Video Killed the Radio Star. He was like just a mastermind producer. So like the album, it's like I think a 6-piece band that did kind of orchestral twee indie pop music, and that album production wise and sound wise is just like to the extreme. I highly recommend it, Dear Catastrophe Waitress. But yeah, it was gonna be my pick, but just I have to go with the one that
I hear you, Meg, because like it's the one of like because my pick is I wanted to pick like the one like the more like a more mature record I like now, but the one I'm like, oh my god, of course it's that record. So
let me think, 2003.
Oh, I have it. It's right here on the floor, man. So.
Is it Transatlanticism?
Nope.
No.
It was on the short list though. So my sister had a boyfriend, and that boyfriend left this CD at the house and said, "I don't like this." And this CD was so jarring to me when I first heard it, and I really fell in love with this band afterwards. This is Alkaline Trio's "Good Morning," released in 2003. This probably was left at our house not that long afterwards. I just want to give you the chorus of the first song is step 1, slit my throat. Step 2, drain my blood. Step 3, cover me in dirty sheets and run laughing out of the house.
Is this Papa Roach?
So that was like the first, and they were singing it so happily, and it really, the cover is so striking.
It looks like Kraftwerk.
Right. The cover is so striking, and it has the 3 crosses on the back. I'm not going to lie, when I first heard this at like what age I was then, it scared the shit out of me. I did not realize like it was like, you know, graveyard humor, and it was all like really dark jokes. But I was like, oh my god, like who would sing about these things? There's also a line in that song about shitting the bed and laying in it, so that's also a really like disgusting thing that they sing about happily.
Luke doesn't stop shitting the bed.
Please tell me it's spelled morning, M-O-U-R.
Oh, you fucking think it's not? Of course it is. So this is the, if I'm gonna shout out an Alkaline Trio album, that's the one. This is their second release on Vagrant Records after they got signed.
Big record.
And it's their big record. It's beautiful pop production. Keith Morris from the Circle Jerks guests on the song We've Had Enough and screams awesomely in the background. I don't think they made a better record. And also you get your like emo curmudgeons at the end with Blue in the Face, which is like one of my favorite send-off acoustic tracks to like a rock emo album, and then they end it with like an acoustic sad song. Never done better than on this record. So that's what I had to go with, because like in my heart there were other records, but there was
only ones inscribed on my body.
One inscribed on my body, so I had to go with it because I was like, yes, on paper I might maturely like Death Cab for Cutie's Transatlanticism way more, because it's a really fantastic album. Like as soon as I saw it on the list, I was like, oh my god, that record's so good, and I started listening to that record. But you know, guys,
Gotta go with the trio.
Gotta go with the trio.
Gotta go with the trio.
Any other honorable mentions on anybody else's list? I also considered the Black Album by Jay-Z, which was his supposedly retirement album. I also considered Deja Entendu, which is by Brand New second album, which is like, in my opinion, a high watermark in the early 2000s emo movement.
Oh yeah, that record is listened heavily by my significant other upstairs. It's in the record collection. High watermark for like that emo rock thing going on 2003, because like we said, Transatlanticism came out that year.
Yeah.
The Postal
Death Cab for Cutie.
Yep. The Postal Service's Give Up came out the same year, which is Ben Gibbard from Death Cab for Cutie, featuring I'm never gonna remember who it is. Jenny Lewis, I think.
I don't know who the producer is.
I think Jenny Lewis is the other featured singer on that record.
It's the producer who did NSYNC's Pop, I believe.
Is it really?
Yeah, that song.
A record of my childhood.
Look it up,
I
Alex.
listened to the Postal Service's Give Up so many times in that era. I also wanted to shout out It Still Moves by My Morning Jacket, a record I didn't listen to at the time, but definitely listened to when I was like in high school. The Ugly Organ by Cursive, one of the best emo albums of all time. Has a cello player, amazing, great record. Also wanted to shout out The Darkness's Permission.
That was all. I was
gonna
say that was in my top 5 too.
I fucking loved Permission to Land by The Darkness. We had that album when it came out in my house. My sister.
What's the best song? What's your favorite song, I should say?
Giving up.
I like Love on the Rocks with No Ice.
I also love You're Really Growing on Me.
Yeah.
Also, fun fact about that was released.
I can play that on guitar. That's the only song.
That was released July 7th of 2003.
Oh, your
My
birthday.
birthday.
Happy birthday. Alex, what's the name of the producer on the Postal Service?
Brian Tranzo.
What's his? Oh, BT.
BT.
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, he produced Pop by NSYNC.
Also, guys,
Yep.
Blink-182's Self-Titled came out in that year, and that changed everybody's fucking life. Feeling this, dude. Feeling this.
Didn't
and
affect my
Miss
life
You.
1%.
Let me tell you, as like
Miss You, though.
a seventh, eighth grader, that album dropping like was fucking blew everybody's mind. That's what I'm saying, man. Everybody was like, that album changed everyone's personality after that shit came out.
I got a couple. Luke, The Darkness, all that. But the Mars Volta, D-Louse in the Comatorium came out in 2003. That's a great record. And then the White Stripes, Elephant.
Oh yeah.
Also came out. The Strokes, Room on Fire, also came out that year. There was
second album. Yeah.
There was
Black Keys.
What's that?
Black Keys, The Thick Freakness.
Oh, Thick Freakness was 2003. Yeah, that's right. So that Yeah Yeah Yeah's record too, Fever to Tell, that was 2003.
Okay.
So yeah, it was an interesting year. David Bowie released Reality, so
Bad,
it was
album.
That's one.
Sorry, David Bowie. Bad.
He wasn't
album.
in
Not a
reality
fan.
there.
Yeah, so there you have it.
That was 2003.
2003 in
What
a
are your
nutshell.
favorite albums from 2003?
Yeah, let us know.
You guys definitely. We had some very flavored picks here. We went from The Darkness to Alkaline Trio to 50 Cent's Get Rich or Die Trying.
Hey man,
Childhood favorites, man. It is what it is.
Yeah, I just remember
Dude,
Eblins.
You know what I remember?
Just like
Mike and Eblin. Dude, you know what I remember? I remember many men wishing death upon me as a 11-year-old.
You're like, I'm from Griswold.
Blood in my eye, dog, and I can't see.
You're like sing at 50.
Many men.
Dude, I was right walking around like a barn. I was like,
Walking around-
I don't
yeah.
even know what the fuck he's talking
There's a
about.
cow over there, and he's just like, what a bitch.
Yeah, there's literally a field across the street from my house that's like vacant and empty with corn.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, many men.
Manny, man. Hey, man, it's hard out here in the streets of
JC.
Griswold. JC.
Juicy titty.
Thank you for rolling back time with us and experiencing what was 2003.
Yes. Yeah, we'll be right back then. Let's take a break. And
2 and 2.
2 and 2. We'll be right back. This episode of the podcast is brought to you by Hofner Guitars. I have here the Hofner Shorty. It is a full-scale, travel-size guitar. You can find this and all of their products at hofnerguitars.com. Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Welcome back.
Oh.
Good job.
I was surprised I did that.
That
Wow.
sounded good. That was great.
We could almost be the Beach Boys.
Well, here we go. Because we're about to go to the beach.
We're going to kick it off with 3 albums that are celebrating their 50th anniversary. We have the Beach Boys Holland we're going to do first. Then we're going to do Greetings from Asbury Park by Bruce Springsteen. And then we're going to do Aerosmith self-titled.
Yes, so
The
we're going to
Beach
kick it off
Boys.
with the Beach Boys.
Tell us about
Luke's-
Holland, Luke. Take us to
It's a
the
beautiful
Dutch.
country.
Holland is the 19th studio album released by the Beach Boys. I'm not sure if that's really including like comps, but it might just be like straight up albums by that point. So this is the Beach Boys in their 70s incarnation. Brian Wilson is not really heading the band on any level at all, but he is participating slightly when he feels like it, which is not much at all. This album was recorded in the country of Holland, which was a break from the Beach Boys, who usually recorded in, you guessed it, sunny California. So this was a big move for them. The idea was that they were going to move there permanently and base themselves there for like the rest of forever, but that didn't really plan out. They stayed there for a couple months, recorded what was the base of Holland. They had to make a makeshift studio. There was a lot of trouble, and things didn't really turn out the way they wanted it to. They went back to LA to finish the rest of the record. And this is what we got. You have the standout track, Sail Out Sailor, starting the record, and then we have some weird Beach Boys-ness, ensuing from there. Also to be of noted, this is the Beach Boys lineup with Ricky Fader on drums and Blondie Chapman on guitar. Dennis is participating, but only as a songwriter-singer on this record. So it's a very interesting version of the band, and that version of the band does not exist after this record. So there's only 2 records with that version of the band, and then never again. So
Yeah, it's an interesting album. I like Sail on Sailor. I love that song. It gets a little bit weird there in the middle with the California Saga, the Beaks of Eagles, and all that. But I like this record. I think it's fun. It's cool.
In our nest.
I like all the weird, quirky sort of sound effects that you get in there, especially Funky Pretty. The when you get those key sounds like wow, 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 wow,
a lot of
that stuff.
Cool synth bass going on this record.
Yeah,
I
that
also am a big fan of Funky Pretty. That was one of the songs that Brian Wilson
That's
actually
the
had
Brian
involvement in. And one of my favorite songs of the later day Beach Boys. It's just so weird. The horoscope lyrics are like they're not even of the time because they're out of date by the time he's singing them. But it's such a weird song, and it is actually kind of funky, except the bridge when it goes like funky, 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 pretty. Pretty, pretty, funky. It's so insane.
An army of didgeridoos.
The vocals going up. It's just so out there. This is also to note, like, if you only know the Beach Boys of like fun, good vibrations, this is so out there from what you know. This is like a 70s soft rock, like, kind of outing for the band that I don't think a lot of people have even experienced from the Beach Boys. So also a strange thing to note at that of how strange of a record this is for a band that most people haven't heard this record,
Right.
So very
I hadn't
interesting.
heard this until this week.
Really?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure you've heard "Sail on Sailor" though.
Yes,
Like
I've
that
heard
song.
that one song, but that was the only song I'd ever heard off this record. This album sounds to me like the band, like the group The Band, doing the Beach Boys. Like it's very, I don't know, it's very strange. I did like the songs "Leaving This Town," which has like a 1.5 minute long Moog synthesizer solo in the second half. I like the song "Only With You," which is a Dennis song with Carlin vocals. I think I like that song a lot more than the others because I like Dennis's solo stuff, which was late 70s, so Pacific Ocean Blue,
Yep.
right? That's the name of the album. It reminded me of that type of song. But yeah, overall, this album was just it was like woozy barbershop harmony, like weirdness, and I wasn't a big fan. But there are, I think it's 9 tracks, and I liked like 4 or 5 of them. I like "Sail on Sailor."
Yeah.
There is an added EP that like kind of came with this album, which is like a 12-minute song suite about like a Pied Piper stuck in a magic radio,
So basically,
which was I listened to as well, and
My
I
favorite part.
kind of liked more than the regular album. That
That's
was
Brian,
called
right?
yeah, Brian. They were like,
yeah.
Brian was like, I want to do this fairy tale song, and they were like, what are you
Not on the
talking about?
album.
And
Yeah.
he was like, I did it, and they were like, okay, it can go on the 7-inch. Like
Yeah.
it's not on the album, so they threw it on as
It's
like
called
a
Mount
bonus.
Vernon and Fairway.
Yes.
And it like features their at the time manager
Jack
like,
Riley.
narrating this tale.
If you call it that.
But yeah, the regular album, I just like this is not music that I enjoy. But
Yeah.
there's some decent stuff in it.
Man, this is my cup of tea like all day long. This is like 70s smoggy, keyboardy,
Yeah.
mixed with my favorite things is Beach Boys harmony.
Right. Let me just ask you then, because you would know better than I would. What Brian Wilson's involvement, right? Is this this is
Out. Like he's not even like thought about of like
what year did that
So
happen? What year did
basically-
he really
70.
drop out?
I would say like even before that,
68
I would say
probably,
like
yeah.
68 is
Really?
like
That
really
early,
like
huh?
the last kind of involvement of like real involvement.
Because he only co-wrote like 2 or 3 of these songs.
So
Yeah.
and the main thing is co-wrote, and
Yeah.
the other thing of note too is you're right in saying that these are the boys, these are the Beach Boys on their own. This is not a Brian Wilson album. This is not Brian Wilson and his puppets. This is
The
what
rest of the dudes.
Yeah.
this is
Carl.
what the, yeah
leading
what
it,
they
yeah.
actually did, what they actually sounded like as musicians. They're actually playing on the record.
Right.
So this is the Beach Boys as an actual band of who they really were. And like you said, like there's great Dennis stuff on here. Steamboat is one of Dennis's best songs. It's track 2. It is like
Yeah.
a weird.
It's like Yellow
oozy-
Submarine on Downers.
It is exactly what that song is, but it's one of like it's such a, like a but that's that's the Beach Boys, the Yellow Submarine on Downers, and
Yeah.
it's just so like
Sad submarine.
and then the big like crazy thing on this album, like let's talk in depth about
the song
it.
suite.
It's the song suite. So
The song Sour.
there's California Saga, which is really the contribution of Mike Love, lead singer, if you will.
Boo this man.
Yes, please. And Al Jardine, guitar
Yeah.
player. So Al Jardine and him pretty much put together this California Saga where you start at like Big Sur and you go to like the mountains of,
Where
The
the
Redwood
where the
Forest.
Eagles are.
yes, where the redwood forests are. Could you please, Michael, if you have those, do you don't?
Oh, I have him right here.
please
Queued up.
give us a snippet
Eagles
of
scattered
from
silent bleeding.
this is from The Beaks of Eagles, a piece in the
Part
song
2.
suite.
An eagle's nest on the head of an old redwood on one of the precipice-footed ridges. Above Ventana Creek, that jagged country, which nothing but a fallen meteor will ever plow, no horseman will ever ride there. No hunter cross this ridge, but the winged ones know. Winged ones.
Sorry. The winged ones.
Oh, winged ones, sorry.
Is he-
But the winged ones, no. One will. These are written really weird. One will steal.
They didn't
one-
write this. This is
No
somebody else's
one will
poem.
steal the eggs
Is
from
it?
this fortress. Fortress, yeah, that's
Wait,
not forest.
nobody's playing the recorder under this. It
The
doesn't make sense.
she-eagle is old. Her mate was shot long ago. She is now mated with
her
a
son.
son of hers.
Yeah.
Oh, this got really Freudian. didn't it? Good God.
Dude, play me that Beach Boys song with eagle incest.
You know what? Can I also say this, though? I'm just like, how many songs about California are these people going to write?
Not enough.
California.
Oh, my God.
Um,
So many songs. I'm like, we get it. You're from California. God
So-
damn it. Stop
get it.
telling me about it.
California.
So the California Saga is a bit hit or
Californians.
miss for some people. I like how weird it is. It is weird. It's not my favorite thing the Beach Boys done. You have to have a soft spot for
Brian
the Beach
Wilson
Boys.
didn't write these lyrics?
I would say not. But you know, like we said. Oh, also to shout out to Carl Wilson's "The Traitor." If you're into that kind of thing, is like probably his signature song that he wrote with the Beach Boys.
About African colonialism.
Absolutely. Check out the live version on the Beach Boys live
I
album
did
from
watch
this
that,
era.
yeah.
It is much better than the recorded version, I think, but great guitar solo on The Traitor. Also from,
the slide guitar stuff.
is really, really good to check out. And that's also Carl Wilson playing that.
Yeah.
So please check that out. It's, I think, his magnum opus of like his career
Yeah.
as a songwriter. So that is the Beach Boys, Holland.
There you go.
Also,
Happy anniversary.
before they would never make another album of like progression ever again. After this album is released, the Beach Boys return to a oldies act, releasing 15 big ones, and never release another forward-facing music album, I think, ever again. So that is also of
So big
note.
turning point.
Huge.
You said
turning
like
point.
the 18th or 19th album. That was only like 10 or 11 years into their career.
Right? Isn't
Right.
that crazy to think about that?
Shout out to the Beach Boys, love you, but
They were all 30 and younger too.
19th.
Crazy. All right. Well, moving on.
Moving on
Jeffrey, would
to
you
the
like
debut album by the boss himself, Bruce Springsteen, New Jersey's finest. The album's called Greetings from Asbury Park, New Jersey, with the excellent postcard album cover. This is a debut album that was recorded at like very budget recording studios, like in the dead of night. Over a period of time. It's not the full E Street Band because Bruce Springsteen was just getting his music off the ground after playing in bar bands all over Asbury Park area. This album does feature a couple members who would go on to stay with him his entire career, like bassist Gary Talent, David Sanchez, who was on maybe the first 3 albums. Yeah, that's
Isn't
about
Clarence Clemens
Oh yeah, and
on?
Clarence Clemens is on this album as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
The big man. This album is known for its first song, not really the Bruce Springsteen version, but the Manfred Mann's Earth Band version of "Blinded by the Light." Yes.
This is my first listen.
Yep.
What is the Bruce Springsteen lyric? It's not
Revved up like a deuce.
split loose like a deuce is the Bruce Springsteen
Sure.
lyric. Split loose like a deuce, not revved up like a deuce like the Manfred Mann version.
Or
So
the Manfred Mann, which sounds like revved up like a douche.
it definitely sounds like douche, and
Oh,
it
it
definitely
sounds
does
like douche.
not sound like that at
No.
all in any aspect on
No.
this record. Please continue.
So Bruce Springsteen, maybe 23-ish at the time, sounding like an emo-ish Motown-influenced Bob Dylan. There's a lot of cool R&B stuff on this album. There's a lot of cool singer-songwriting stuff on this album. He kind of sounds Bruce Springsteen from the very beginning. This is the most ragged of his recordings because it was done very piecemeal, very cheaply, with only really like a 4-piece band. But it's still a really good album. Still very solid, and just like shows what's to come in a 50-year career of like, I don't know, at this point, like 27 more albums or something. It's something crazy. But yeah, great album. Great debut.
I was conflicted by listening to this album, but also this is coming from a not huge Bruce Springsteen fan. I ended up really loving the rock flavored numbers, the ones that had backing band, Blinded by the Light, I really liked. And the last two songs, especially Spirit in the Night and It's Hard to Be a Saint in the City, those songs like really like shot out to me. I was like, oh yeah, I really like these. And I was getting the Bruce Springsteen kind of flavor. But like Mary Queen of Arkansas, I couldn't like super get into that one.
Oh, that's my favorite song of the album.
It was just so.
Yeah.
Can you explain like what's like the draw to it for me? Because for me, I'm like, for me, I think I'm just too much of like a like Dylan guy for me to be like. I don't know if I want to even get into like what your lyrics are about on this acoustic song, but like I think that's like my thing. But I don't know because that one was a little rough for me.
Yeah, I like that song because that being this being his debut album, that is a song that like the first two songs, By and By the Light, pop, very radio friendly hit. Growing Up, it kind of like his later song, Glory Days. Like it's very, teenage, whatever. And then Mary, Queen of Arkansas is like that very wordy, small town storytelling thing about the deadbeats and the people with the lost dreams and all that kind of stuff. And I just think like the fact that he did that on his debut album and it's so fully formed, that's why I like the song, because he would go on to do a career of those type of songs, and that's like his bread and butter. And the fact that he was able to do that right from the jump is why I like that song. I think it's like, I don't know, it's just like, it's the most soulful when he is doing that, like the anthems of the downtrodden and like the stories of the people who have been losers. Like, I think that's when he shines the brightest. So
I'm glad you spoke to it in such light because, like, for me, I was like trying to get in there, and then you just said it like so, like what your flavor for it was, and I really enjoyed that because it was like that was one of like the ones I was like, oh, I don't know, but having you like said like that's kind of what I'm like, oh, I kind of see where he's coming from a little bit, because before I'm like, I don't think this dude ever been to Arkansas. Like, like that's what I'm like thinking. Like this Jersey rat never been to Arkansas. This is his first record.
Well, and some background, like. I'm not the world's biggest Bruce Springsteen fan, but I do enjoy the run of I'm not going to look it up, but I think it's like the first 7 albums, and it kind of, for me, it peaks with Born to Run and The River. But it's like everything from the debut kind of like grows, gets a little better, and then through Nebraska and Born in the USA is like really like the period I listen to. But like I don't know, like peak Bruce Springsteen just is really good for me. Like I always talk about how much I appreciate that decade of stuff. And the fact that he's a white dude from like outside of New York City, from New Jersey, but he was like part of he was in the mix during the civil rights movement when he's like a broke white kid on the wrong side of the tracks mixing up with black kids who are getting bussed into schools and getting beaten up, and like all this tension down there in Asbury Park. And I don't know, I just think like, so his Motown style stuff, his soul type of stuff, having black band members, all those things, that nice American mix melting pot thing that he does, I just think really works really well. It's that folk, it's that Americana, it's that kind of rootsy rock country-ish type stuff with the soul and R&B flavors.
Spirit in the Night, like too on
right,
on this record is the for me
it's Motown,
the highlight of everything you're saying, because it brings that all together in such a beautiful way. And also shout out to a white dude to sing a song called Spirit in the Night when Ray Charles wrote one called Spirit in the Dark, which is like, to do a flavor on that, it's like so good, so masterful, really great take on your own way.
Yeah, Jeff, to your point, Bruce Springsteen was awarded the Presidential Medal of Freedom in 2016 from Barack Obama.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So just like very, just an American icon, and I think a very solid debut. Not his best, but it's for a debut album. I think it's really has a lot of heart and a lot of honesty and a lot of truth and a lot of like it's not like he's trying to make it as a big stadium millionaire 40-50 year career dude.
You're right.
He's more just like, I'm getting the cats I play with every weekend at the bars. We just want to like put out a good make some good records.
Right, and that is definitely the vibe you get from it. There's not like big stardom like dreams on this record. He like sings about like rough kids like wanting to make it, but like not in that kind of way. And you're right. This is an interesting record. I also was like talking to Mike too at the time. Bobby Dylan, I think, was like flirting with Asylum Records at the time, and I think Columbia saw a really young hopeful and was kind of rivaling their own artists to, and that was also an interesting thing I was talking to Mike about, like, at the time.
Yeah.
He was, his own thing, and he took all that Bob Dylan criticism, and I think really shook it off and made himself his own man, and, like, because that was the shake off on this first record was, like, oh, he's Dylan, but it's not that, and it grew into a lot more.
Oh, and this wasn't successful.
No,
and then,
not at all.
And then Wild Innocent East Street Shuffle was not successful, and they were like, listen, bud, like, we're gonna give you very little money. And he went in and he spent like a year and a half, 20 hours a day working on Born to Run, and then Born to Run blew up. But yeah, he was like just getting by, like probably broke as shit. Like, there's a reason he was wearing like ripped up dirty white t-shirts for 5 years, because that's like how he was really living. It wasn't a look.
Interesting too. This album is an album that did not break when it was first released, but broke way later when Born to Run came out in the mid 70s, and then again probably charted in the later 70s at that. So very interesting.
Yeah,
give him a chance, man. He's good.
First charted in the UK in 1985 after Born to Run came out. So that's how, just for a interesting tidbit there.
Yeah.
So,
right on.
Moving on to the third and final.
To the third and final, we've got the self-titled Aerosmith record featuring Dream On, the big hit on that record. We were talking about how, most bands went to Los Angeles to chase the dream. Aerosmith did not do that. They stayed on the East Coast and lived in pretty much just abject poverty and tried to chase their dream here on the East Coast. Mind you, at the time, Steven Tyler was, because this is also the formation of the band too, so Steven Tyler was in a different band. He was doing backup vocals and playing drums, actually, which I didn't realize that Steven Tyler is an accomplished drummer as well as a pianist. And harmonica player,
honking on a bobo.
That's respect for Bobo.
I love this album, man. I love this album. I'm a first albums guy. Most of the bands that I listen to and that I love their first albums. This is no exception for me. I love this record.
Technical difficulties. Microphone drop. But you love first albums, and this is
a quintessential first album for me, man. Because here's the thing: is like, Aerosmith to me they're an American rock band. I feel like they're the American Led Zeppelin, but they dropped any sort of like because Zeppelin will do a little bit of the folky influence. John Paul Jones would pick up a mandolin or something like that. There was a bit of that sort of push. Aerosmith was more stripped down. Obviously, they would go on to have more of a pop success style career doing songs for Armageddon. Everybody knows that song, Don't Want to Miss a Thing, and so on. But this is really them in their infancy, man, and I like it. It's not for everyone. The flavor of the album, it's it's rough. It sounds kind of like a demo. There's moments.
I'm into
it's
it.
Rough.
I think the sound of this record. This was recorded at Intermedium in Boston. So, like you said, outside the industry, this to me is a like relic of what this band is, and I think it's special for that reason. So, like you said, East Coast band, bar band,
right?
Original songs. A lot of bands that were on the East Coast did not get to record in recording studios because all the recording studios are on the West Coast, the big studios, things like that. So even a lot of smaller bands probably had better, it wasn't the Brill Building, this wasn't New York City. So if you were in Boston, a lot of the things probably didn't get documented in their time. So having this bar band record that this band just wrote these original songs, they put them together. They've been working on them for like 2 or 3 years, incubating, and this is the BAM. It's not a stylish sounding record, but it sounds like what that band would sound like any night in a bar or in a room with no people. It's really dry, but I think the songs are A+ Aerosmith hard rock songs. I can't think of like another hard rock album of this era that I listen to and enjoy like the original songs more. Also, to that note, Aerosmith play a lot of these songs live still, even like on their last tour. Like you said, let's just throw a couple out there. Dream On, the big song in this album,
which did not really make it big until 1975.
Right, so not a big hit originally off this album, but later when re-released as a single.
Yes, and I do know that Columbia Records, in a push to push the single further, what they did was, because there was 2 versions of it, there was the radio edit, which was like 3 minutes and so on, and then there was the regular version, which is, hold on, I can actually get it for you now, 4 minutes and 28 seconds. Thank you. So, you know, what they ended up doing was they pushed Dream On onto pop charts instead of like just being on rock charts, and I believe what they did was the pop charts had the radio edit, the rock charts had the album version, and that's really what catapulted that into, you know, into fame.
The screaming at the end. And
also,
all that stuff.
Right.
Also to note on this song too is the band didn't really champion the song until the second re-release of the single, because they didn't really want this released as the single, as Steven Tyler rightly knew of its hit potential. The rest of the band was like, I don't like this song. This is our weakest song. It's the only downer on the album.
Yeah,
it's the
it's
only
more of the
ballad.
ballad. Right.
They couldn't see past Aerosmith's hard rock.
Yeah, well, to be fair, Joe Perry and I think, oh my goodness,
Oh, give me what does he play? I can tell you.
Okay, drummer.
Joey Kramer.
Joey Kramer. Thank you. That's what I meant to say. So I think that those two were actually in the Joe Perry, what was it called? The Jam, Joe Perry Jam or Joe Perry Experiment or whatever the heck it was.
Moving Out?
The band before this.
The band before this, yeah.
Yes.
That's what they were. They were like sort of a jammy, bluesy band and stuff. You know what I mean? So I think maybe that's why they were like, well, no, we have to. Yeah, we got to stick to the blues, like the hard blues thing or whatever. And Steven Tyler came in and he's like, well, look, I wrote this song on piano. Why don't we try that? You know?
Right.
So I could see why they would be doing some pushback, because they're trying to create this image. But this, I think, Dream On only amplified their capable. You know, it's showing like, well, we can actually write.
It shows later that they would do Don't Want to Miss a Thing is obviously bore out of everything Dream On is. Play live till the end of the career. Mamakin, the B-side opener. Great song, great lyrics. I think it's some of the best lyrics Aerosmith wrote. It's like the vibe, smoking tea, you know, your mom wants to know where you've been kind of thing. The rip-off Brown Sugar saxophone guitar solo during the break. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Like really just giving you like like the Stones are cool, but like this is like way more rockin' than like that can be. And you know, shout out to the R&B flavor at the end with the Rufus Thomas cover of "Walkin' the Dog" that they just like assault with guitars. The down out, down out, down out, down out, down down. Pretty cool, man. I'm
not a big fan.
I know you're not, Jeffrey. Why are you not really a big fan though?
Steven Tyler just doesn't sound like Steven Tyler at all. Like his voice sounds like just husky. And
I can give you a quote. He said he was so the recording of this record was a very stressful, bad experience for them. And he said that he was trying to emulate Kermit the Frog.
It sounds like it.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
What?
I think that's him taking the piss so that nobody can say it sounded bad. If he says it was on purpose.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just vocally like the calling card of Aerosmith is that like acrobatic, very loose, free, kind of like can go into screamy stuff at any time. And he doesn't do that at all on this album. Even Dream On, like he goes into those screams at the end, but it's not like in the middle of phrases like how he would do that like David Lee Roth type of thing later in his career. And yeah, it just has that like it has that very like low production cost, kind of probably quickly made demo-ish like sound fidelity. But it sounds like a band that, like you said, was playing probably 5 nights a week at 200-person rooms all over the East Coast, like just grinding it out. And so, hey, it is what it is. Like, yeah.
I would also of note, if you are a fan, check out any radio broadcast they did in like 73, 74. They play all these songs, and the tightness and ferocity that they are playing with is not on this album. To be found on their live show at the time, and there's plenty of like live radio broadcasts from like 73, 74 you can check out on YouTube. The band is so hot and way more fiery than this record, I think, gives them credit for. So,
yeah,
yeah,
because you played me some of that stuff, and it's like, oof.
It is on fire. It
Yeah,
is like a
it's
band
really,
playing
really
on like
good.
firing on all gears. This band's like firing on like a 4 or 5, like on this record, and they had way more capability. So
Yeah,
very
this was also a
interesting.
first time listen for me too.
Really,
Yeah,
yeah.
because I've always I've listened to 2 tracks and then I go, this isn't Aerosmith like I like. I like Aerosmith like maximalist, like
Yeah,
you know, with
right.
the horn section, all that shit, like the stuff from the late '80s, early '90s.
Yeah.
So,
I'm so the
where
opposite.
it's clean and big and like
I'm
so many layers and.
an Aerosmith minimalist. The more they like add production, I'm like, the less that is on there, I'm like, yes.
I like crying and crazy and amazing and
I'm a
yeah.
first
Ragdoll. Those are the songs I like.
first 3 records guy. For
Yeah,
me.
see, I kind of fall into that category too, because that was my experience, right?
Yeah,
It's you. I mean, everybody had that Armageddon soundtrack. You know,
Yeah.
everybody had that. You
Also,
know,
big note here. Third album breaks by both bands here. Aerosmith's third album, Toys in the Attic,
yeah.
break. And before that, the Get Your Wings and self-titled, these albums did not
Flopped.
sell anything.
Right.
Flopped, yeah.
Same with Bruce Springsteen,
Right.
third album, Born to Run.
And it's interesting to note as well that both of these bands were signed to Columbia Records around the same time and released both of these records in the same month from the same record
Same week.
label.
Yeah,
Yeah.
same week. So
Same
these
week.
are both brand new artists that both got signed to Columbia Records, and they both were legacy artists. That's amazing.
That's
Yes.
crazy
They
to think.
both-
And they both flopped.
And they both flopped on their first record.
Yeah.
Very
still
cool.
rocking, still selling out stadiums.
Yeah, man. Exactly.
Well, get better, Steven Tyler. We really wish you all the speedy best in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. He's.
We want to see.
We said speedy best, not the best speed, Steven. All right, please.
We mean it.
We know you're watching. So yeah, it's just I love this record. So
This was enjoyable.
Yeah.
I like doing
It
it.
was
50
fun.
years old.
All of these are
50.
50 years old. Remember, like a couple years ago, when like all like the 60s records
Yeah.
turned like 50, and like we were all like, yeah, that seems about right. But like this Aerosmith album's 50, and I'm like, that seems weird. And also, all the 70s bands that are now turning 50 are not celebrating nearly in the same way that all the other bands were. Like, there's no deluxe reissue of this. There's no deluxe reissue of that coming out. So maybe the 70s birthdays are a little more frowned upon. 60s were a little more celebrated.
Yeah. Well, cocaine's a hell of a drug.
That's true.
Anyway, what do you guys think? Do you like those albums? Did we maybe miss the mark? Can you think of albums that are turning 50 this January that you might like to throw out there? Let us know in the comments below. Maybe we can talk about them. Anyway,
This has been from the Eagle's Beak,
the Eagle's beak.
over
The Eagle
the
also
crest
wants you to remember
of the mountain.
to like and comment and
Soaring
subscribe to the podcast. And any talking things that you'd like to hear us talk about, let us know. Drop it in the comments. Any subjects, any albums you want us to cover, anything like that. We are always open to covering topics that you guys want to hear us talk about. So this has been Get in the Garage. Have a good week at school. We'll see you next time.